space. All right, we're live. We're live. Welcome everyone to ThursdAI. We're gonna get started in just a minute, as always. Meanwhile, I just want to say hi to my co-host here, Wolfram. We're gonna get joined by Nistan soon and other folks. Today we have a lot of open source. Just an incredible week in open source. It looks like folks have been waiting for the first 2 weeks of January and then started to just release an incredible amount of stuff. So we have a lot to cover today. We're gonna run through a bunch of them. A bunch of Chinese labs decided to release LLMs and other things as well. And we're gonna run through them, and then we're going to maybe talk to some of them. Yeah, there's some audio ones as well, very interesting ones. I also cover some of the trip that I had. I had a trip and I went to San Francisco and I went to Seattle and I'm back. I met some of you. Those of you who I met some listeners of ThursdAI as well. We're going to mention some other events that we're going to participate in and be in. We are also going to have a conversation today, an interview with Graham Newbeck from All Hands AI. Graham and I had a scheduling thing last week, but now Graham is going to join us at the last part of this show. So don't go anywhere. At the end, we're going to have a conversation with Graham about all Open Hands, which used to be Open Devon, at the end of this. Meanwhile, we're going to get started in a minute. Meanwhile, those of you who are joining us on the Twitter space, welcome. It would be very... and I need to make sure that you guys don't get those sounds as well. Apologies. Welcome, everyone. I would love to welcome my co-host here, Wolfram. Wolfram, welcome. How are you doing, sir?
Hello, so much news and so much open source. I'm always excited about open source news, so it's been a great week.
Yes, to this week specifically, it looks like we're going to have to talk mostly about open source and then some other stuff as well. Big companies look sleepy, although I'm expecting maybe breaking news today. We'll see. There's one big thing from big companies, which is ChatGPT tasks, which I actually asked ChatGPT to send me a task notification coming up with a title for the show at exactly 8 or 9:30, I guess. And it failed. It's very interesting. I asked it to write an opening for the show and send it exactly at 8:30 or 9:30 a.m. my time, and it did not send it. So it looks like we're still working on it. Right. I think it's one last thing. It's time to open the show in a second. One last thing I would like to say, folks who are joining us on Twitter Spaces, we're live streaming kind of everywhere. We're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn. Hey, LinkedIn folks, welcome. We're also on X in multiple places. I would love to help you discover us everywhere there. If you would like to see and not only hear, you're welcome to do that. If you're missing any part of the show is also on everywhere you get your podcasts in podcast form. It used to be on video form as well. I would love comments from folks whether or not you want that to return. So for now, we're just like recording the live portion in video form, editing that. I saw that not tons of folks watch that and are interested in that. But if you want that to return, please let me know. We'll definitely take that into account. We also have a friend of ours who looked well rested for the first time this year. Hey, Nistan.
Hey, what's up? I woke up to a jackhammer outside at 9:30, more like a regular time, and I don't actually mind the construction noise. It's a lot better than like compiling Torch from scratch.
That sounds like an alarm clock in the making.
Yeah.
Was it a ChatGPT notification going off?
Oh no, it was an actual jackhammer. It just said, time to build.
Time to build, absolutely. So welcome, Nistan, and then we'll see if LDJ will join us as well. So we have a full show full of open source. Those of you who are joining us on the X Space, as always, it would be helpful if... I don't know if that sounded right. So let me rephrase that. Sorry. There's a way that you can support the show. If you go to the bottom right of the Twitter Space interface, there's a little message icon in there. If you leave us a comment, but while you're there, if you give a little boost to the actual tweet that posted the show or retweet that, that's going to be very helpful for the algorithm for other folks on your timelines to discover us, because sometimes it just hides. So that other folks don't even see that we're live. That's going to be very helpful. If you want to leave a comment and tell us what was the best open source or the most exciting open source release of this week for you guys, maybe we haven't seen one a couple of times. And honestly, this whole show is about the community. So a lot of the times that we don't even know or we discover something that folks from the community tell us, hey, this was released. Also, during the show, please use that comment button to tell us, first of all, reactions to the things that we're talking about live, but also if anything, breaking news or something comes up, please also use that button to let us know about it. I always check it. If it becomes purple, this means there's a new comment. I'm definitely checking that as well. So thank you, Pierre. Thank you for everybody for reposting this. I hear the jackhammer, Nistan. That's going to be
Yeah.
that's gonna be hard. All right. So we're all enjoying the jackhammer together with Nistan, but I think it's time for us to actually dive in because tons of news, as I said. Let's go. Alrighty, welcome to ThursdAI, everyone. Today is January 16. My name is Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist. I'm an AI evangelist with weights and biases. I should be able to say this already. I've been saying this for a year and almost a year and a half now. Welcome to ThursdAI, everyone. My name is Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist with weights and biases. Today is January 16th. An exciting episode in front of us, full of open source. Today with my co-host here, Wolfram Ravenwolf, all the way from Cologne, Germany.
Near Cologne,
now we know where in Germany, right? Because there's an event coming up.
Right.
And now I know the location, so you're doxing yourself a little bit.
A bit. It's still over an hour to drive, so
okay. So not necessarily from there. So like a location,
nearby.
But not. You want to tell the folks how's your week, man?
Oh, it's been a great week. So I'm very excited about big releases, large context releases, voice stuff, all the things we are talking about soon. So yeah, it's been great. So much new stuff to play with.
A lot
and not
of stuff.
enough time.
Barely catching
Never
up.
enough.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And another co-host that joined us fully well rested, although waking up with the sounds of Canadian builders building, not necessarily building AI. Welcome, Nistan.
Hey, everybody. Let's go.
Let's go. Nistan, Nistan, you're joining us, and under your name, for folks who are not looking at us, there's a new thing called github.gg. Is that now an affiliation?
Yeah, we came up with a bunch of newer stuff that we haven't released yet, and the entire caching and stuff is pretty fixed too. And also, we're getting our first big contract just because of this side project. So
so for folks who haven't been following the reasons why Nistan hasn't been showing up lately is because the side project grew and grew to some proportions, and then github.gg allows you to log in there and see GitHub repos in plain text, and then talk to those, and then do multiple things. And Nistan will give us some updates. So it looks like now it preoccupies a lot of your time. So we'll get an update.
It's a problem, honestly, because we're reaching 300 to 1,500 users every hour jumping on it, and now it's actual friends and stuff use it too. So they'll complain directly when it's not working, and it's becoming a bit of a problem. It's a good problem.
A good problem to have when friends are joining the side projects, and side projects become a little bit more. So if VCs are listening and want to support this,
no, not for VCs. We have actual big contracts and stuff. We don't. It looks like we're not gonna really need them. It's when a contract starts offering more than what a VC angel does, you're in a different spot.
VC is not invited. All right.
No.
Not invited. So, folks, we have tons of news to go through. I think we can dive into open source immediately, but we'll do it TLDR. We'll do it TR because, as always, for folks who are tuning in, we're running through everything that we have to talk about. And honestly, during the everything that we have to talk about, sometimes we get lost and we're just like, we already talked about this. However, for folks who are short on time, ThursdAI, for those who are joining and are new, I don't see a lot of new faces in the audience. I see some new faces in the audience, but those who are joining and are new, ThursdAI usually takes around an hour and a half, 2 hours of good conversation after the intros and TLDRs. But those of you who don't have all that time, we also want you to get the benefit. So if that's all that you have, that's all the time that you have, then beginning, then the TLDR for you to like grab onto the latest news line super quick. So the motto on ThursdAI is we stay up to date so you don't have to. Again, if you didn't follow any part of this and you need to go in the middle, we understand it's Thursday, people need to work. Some people work at night, some people don't work at night, and you have events or otherwise schedules in the calendar. That's fine. You can find us on any podcast platform like Apple Podcast and Spotify and everywhere else under the ThursdAI. Just look up ThursdAI. And the best way to support that is to leave us a 5-star review, which I think we have a 5-star review everywhere. Keep that going. That's great. Let's run through the TLDR. So this is it. This is the TLDR. I'm going to actually present this as well because why not? This is the TLDR. This is everything that we have to talk about on ThursdAI for January 16th. We're going to start with open source, a lot of open source. The biggest, I think, the biggest news from open source out of left field, Hailuo AI from a Chinese company, apparently a 200 person company, like a big company from China. I actually need to talk to them. They reached out, but it's midnight in Shanghai. Released Minimax 01, an LLM, a mixture of experts LLM with 456 billion parameters MOE with 4 million context in it, 4 million tokens in a context window. 4 million. That's twice as much as the largest Gemini context window. And I don't know the requirements that you need to run this behemoth, but it is in open weights. You can download this if you're able to run it. And there's a bunch of other stuff, and they added this lightning attention, like a bunch of other stuff. We'll definitely talk about how a company that previously released a video model that also Hailuo Minmax now releases an LLM all of a sudden, and with advances that we haven't seen yet. So this is like a significant jump. We'll definitely talk about this. This feels like the biggest open source news discussion this week. Our friends from Gina, we've talked about Gina releasing embedding models and reader models. We released the reader version 2, which is a direct conversion from HTML to Markdown or JSON. And that model is a tiny model that you can run, even, I think, on Edge. And this little model, I think 1.5 billion parameters, converts HTML to very, very, very good Markdown and even directly to JSON, which previously required converting first to Markdown and then to JSON. And they compare themselves to like big models like Gemini, and this is like 1.5 billion parameter model. You can run this in your browser. Very cool. Shout out to Gina folks. If you guys are using that kind of stuff for anything, definitely Gina is what you need. Reader V2, we're going to briefly cover this. Intern LM, a bunch of Chinese folks this week. Like literally all of China came out with open source. Intern LM came back. You guys remember Intern LM for a while? Like they used to release incredible models. Intern LM Instruct came with Apache 2 license with state-of-the-art performance in the tiny package of, I think it was like 2.5. Oh no, 8 billion parameters. And it just like the highlight there is it trained on a very significant small amount of tokens with high quality with Apache 2 license as well. For me, this was a cool one. Wolfram, I think we're going to chat about this. Our friends with OpenBMB from, I think it's Tsinghua University. I wrote it down. Yeah, Tsinghua. I think I'm pronouncing this correctly. Tsinghua. Folks in the audience, if I'm not pronouncing Tsinghua University correctly, please correct me. I'm probably butchering the crap out of this. OpenBMB released Mini CPM -O. It's a omni model that's tiny. It's an omni model that can understand video. It can get streamed video inside. It's bonkers, honestly. Remember how we got excited where we only just now got video from Gemini, a month and a half ago, and then GPT-4o, we got video back in, I don't know, we got the video presentation a long time ago. We're all waited. Now we have this in open source from China. This is crazy. I played with this. It's an omni model that understands. You can like, you can record yourself like lifting through a page, listening through a page, or like reading, and it says, "You're probably reading because I hear you like scrolling through pages." Like it's a full-on omni model in a tiny package, and you can live stream your video into it. Yeah, we'll definitely chat about this and maybe do a quick example as well. This one we could probably skip. I don't know if this is very interesting, but QTI also raised Helium. I haven't seen any like very good evals there, so maybe we'll skip. Another interesting one is this Dria agent one. I don't know if you guys saw this one. Dria fine-tuned Qwen on outputting Python code functions. So instead of using function codes as JSON, as every other model in tool use, they use JSON, and you provide your functions in JSON structure. They use Python function calls. And because of that, they're able to understand how your one function will call another function, and then one-shot complex agent reasoning, and they claim that this beats some other models, so by a little bit. So an interesting fine-tune of Qwen. And then another last one, a reasoning model, Sky T1, that was trained for less than $450. Not $450,000, not $450 million, $450. I saw this and I went, and also the one thing that I noticed that they open sourced everything, including data code, model weights, and also 1B link. So I like that. Those are the open source releases, there's quite a lot of them. So I ran through them super quick. I'm assuming there's more. Question for the audience as well. Feel free to drop if there's anything else that I missed. But opening up to my co-host here, let me know if I missed any big ones that we should talk about.
No, I mean, related today, I think, which I think is a big deal, is Zenova's web release of Kokoro. So Kokoro.js, you can just implement it in the browser. And last week, I implemented it that very night, right after the show. So we had it running, not publicly, but internally on GitHub GG. And it ran on CPU. Like, it wasn't the most responsive, it wasn't instant, but it was still very usable just on CPU alone for the voice model. And now that you can have it on web GPU by default, because it's so tiny, right? It's only in float 16, it's only 100.
You mean Kokoro, right?
Yeah, Kokoro, the voice.
Yeah.
So yeah, Zenova's voice release for Transformers.js for Kokoro, because now all you need to do is you just do npm install Kokoro.js, and now your site has text to speech, and you don't have to do any DevOps, which is pretty nuts. But that's next level.
Yeah, so awesome. Nistan is taking us over to the voice and audio open source category as well. If you guys remember last week, we talked about Kokoro, which is a super tiny, super high quality TTS, text to speech model that brought back the Sky voice from OpenAI that they took from us. That sounds kind of like Scarlett Johansson, but not really, but was the best voice in OpenAI. And now it's back. And Zenova, friend of the pod, that now works in Hagen now for the past, 2 years already, I think, works, and then ported it to NPM. So now Kokoro is also available in the NPM library and can run in Transformers and just runs in your browser. 350 megabytes download, but still runs in your browser. NPM install Transformers-JS Yes, so that definitely a highlight of today. So you guys should know about this. Like Nissan said, no DevOps. Also, in the voice and audio open source or category as well, OUTTTS, OUTETTS is a 0.3 and sorry, OTTS 0.3. It's a 1 billion and 500 million, so significantly bigger than Kokoro, and quite less high quality as well. That's very interesting. Kokoro is like incredible for its size, but another TTS that does allow you to do zero-shot voice cloning with like 10 seconds also came out, and I think also with like a very, very permissive license. We're gonna, and also multilingual with 20,000 hours of audio trained. So another TTS came out after Kokoro. This one does allow you to do zero-shot voice training, voice cloning. And in voice and audio, we're kind of moving away from open source. Lua, the folks who we talked about in open source releasing a Minimax model, probably state-of-the-art open source, or like close to state-of-the-art open source. Definitely state-of-the-art in context length, right? Like this is by far state-of-the-art. 4 million context length, that's as far as we know state-of-the-art. They also released text-to-audio, which is emotional model that generates audio, and it sounds quite incredible, and we should definitely play some samples. I will just gently say, because some folks in those areas of the world care less about copyright than some folks in these areas of the world, some voices over there sound very peculiarly similar to Hollywood voices. And I'll play one example because I think those are very, very cool. Definitely their voice. So basically 11 Lab competitor from Lua also came out together with the model. In big companies, LLMs and APIs, we have OpenAI launching ChatGPT tasks. Something that our friends, we have a bunch of friends like Tibor Blaho and like Testing Catalog, like all those folks who always look and see behind the code and the feature flags, etc., to see what is about to come in OpenAI. So they knew that this is almost launched during the 12 days of launches in OpenAI during December. ChatGPT announced tasks. So now there's a new selection in the OpenAI ChatGPT interface, and one of them is ChatGPT with tasks, and you can ask it for a reminder, basically a scheduled task, and ChatGPT will do stuff for you, and then on a set timer will do it for you. If it works, we'll chat about this. Also, we got a new Mistral release called CodeStroll 2501. I've never seen the vibes in the community split on the model quite as fast. Literally before they announced the release, I already saw folks posting evals and saying it's not as good as they claim it is. And I was like, they didn't even announce it yet. And yet I already saw people claiming that what they announced is not correct. So we'll cover this. And a very interesting one, Sakana AI. Folks, we talked about Sakana multiple times. They had evolutionary algorithms. They were co-founded by one of the authors of the Transformers paper. We talked about Sakana multiple times. Came out with a paper called Transformers Squared, Self-Adaptive LLMs. And this paper is very interesting because they talk about models that change their weights on the fly for the task that they're working on. That's very interesting. Very interesting. We talked about test time compute before. This is something different. A alternative transformer, potentially architecture with like 2 passes. Hopefully we'll have some time to talk about this. I think that's mostly it in the big companies LLMs, unless I missed something big. Nothing from Google yet. Nothing from Anthropic. Where's Opus 3.5? Nowhere. Microsoft is quiet so far. That's it. Yeah, quiet on the big companies. OpenAI is supposed to give us 0.13 mini at the end of January. That looks like maybe next week, and maybe today there's going to be some breaking news. But for now, quiet. Folks in the audience, if you have any big companies news that I missed, please post it. Let's see what else. Yeah, in this week's buzz, where I talk about everything related to weights and biases, but not only. This week we have one out of distribution announcement. So this week's bugs, I went to San Francisco last week, and then also Seattle. And I did 2 workshops on evaluating LLM applications, as I told you last week, and that was great. I met some of you. This week, I will tell you that we have another one in New York. I'm not going to be there, unfortunately. That's on January 22nd. I have multiple folks come to me and say, "Hey, Alex, I knew about this workshop from you on the show." So if you're in New York on January 22nd, we and Pinecone together are going to have a evaluating RAG applications workshop. And if that's interesting you, the link is going to be in the show notes. So it's a free sign up. And also, if you're in Germany, in Cologne, not sponsored by Weights and Biases, but there's going to be an event with our co-host here. That's not going to show up next week. So this event actually competes with ThursdAI on Spotlight. So I don't know if we should promote it. I'm just kidding.
I could stream from there.
Absolutely you should. So AI Dev 3 in Cologne in Germany. Wolfram, you want to say a few words about this event?
Yeah, so this is the 3rd time it's here, and we had I don't know how many it was exactly. I was just a guest as well, and couple hundred, I think, not more. But it's a developer event, so there are no recruiters or stuff like that. So it's the practitioners amongst themselves talking about what they did and the problems they tackled. So it's always a bring your own problem, where everybody who signs up can also state what they would like to have solved, and that will be discussed with a panel of experts. And people showing or companies showing what they are doing, how they are doing it. It's always very interesting. The topics this time are how to optimize local LLM inference and computer use in production. So what Claude has done, and how to implement your own artifacts in RAG solutions. Those are the big 3, and I think there are about 3 hours, 1 hour per discussion, and then a lot of time is for just networking, hanging out, free pizza, and nice. I've always been there late after midnight, and then driving back late. So it was a great event, and I met one of the coolest things was that I met some podcast listeners here who said, "Oh, I have seen you on ThursdAI or heard you," because we were not doing video back then. So that's great, and I hope to see even more there.
Let's go. Yeah, so definitely, folks who are listening to ThursdAI, if you want to drive out to Cologne, if you're in Germany, and meet Wolfram, and then tell other folks about the podcast and build a little community within community. That's always fun.
There's an airport nearby, and it's actually a movie studio where we have the location, and there's a big airplane right in front of it.
That's awesome. Take pictures, show us.
You know what's funny? Exactly 1 week after that, I'm going to be going outside too. So I'll be at AI Tinkerers Toronto at the Google offices.
AI Tinkerers in Toronto the next week. 800 people signed up for that one.
On Thursday. So
800 people signed up for that one. I have no idea how you guys are going to get that many people in there. All right, moving on with the news though. But so I really want to come out for this one, but that's crazy. Nistan, maybe I'll see you.
Maybe.
Are you demoing?
Yeah. It's a 6 minute. It's just like 6 minute AI Tinkerers demo. So
let's go. So folks, if you're listening to us and you're in Toronto and you haven't signed up yet, the wait list is long because I hear from Joe.
It's completely full now.
It's full, but like it's going to be hopefully a live stream because like 800 people signed up for AI Thinkers in Toronto. But hopefully we'll do something in Toronto, like an evaluations workshop, and then I'll come out. Last thing I wanted to say.
I'll be here though. I'll be here because it's at 5 p.m. Eastern, so I'll still be on ThursdAI.
Oh, you'll come in. Awesome. Let's go. And then evaluation course that we've talked about. So if you haven't come to any of our workshops, evaluation course that is going very strong, very good attendance. Folks are coming up. It's free. Like super quick TLDR. We're gonna end this with the TLDR. We'll start with open source. Vision and video. Luma released Ray 2 video model. It looks super cool. I don't know how much we need to update about every model that comes out, because VO2 just basically takes the cake. But they did release the steak video. If you guys remember, we talked with our friend with the steak comparison videos. Their steak video looks good. So this is now the steak comparison, the steak eval. We'll call this the steak eval. They're really good at the steak eval. And Black Forest Lab released a fine-tuning API for Flux Pro. So far you weren't able to fine-tune Flux Pro because it's proprietary. Now you are able to. So if you are into this, fine-tuning Flux Pro is possible now, and then you can use that fine-tune for Flux Ultra. So I think that this is it in the TLDR space, and now we've talked for almost 30 minutes. Let's actually talk in depth about Hailuo. Let's open with Open Source AI. Open Source AI, let's get it started. So absolutely, from the start, the biggest news in Open Source AI this week, we usually start with small potatoes and then main course. I want to start with the main course. Minimax 01 from Hailuo, a Chinese company, apparently a very big Chinese company. I think 800 people or so. I'm not quite sure. I need to make sure they come to ThursdAI. Invited them. They said yes, and then they said it's a midnight in Shanghai, and they can't come. So maybe next time they'll dedicate. By the way, this is the dedication that we have from Quen folks. It's very late, and they still come. Minimax 01 from Hailuo, a 4 million context, 456 billion mixture of experts LLM with 45 billion active parameters behemoth that matches on benchmarks very big companies' LLMs. So very close in MMLU to GPT-4o, to Claude Sonnet, to Gemini Flash experimental. They added Quen 2.5, 70B to their comparisons. They added DeepSeek, Llama. So first of all, if you add all of those, including Quen, including DeepSeek v3, into your eval comparisons, that's already like you get a very good pass from us. Like if you have all of those, including DeepSeek and everyone. Second of all, let's talk about the 4 million context window, folks. This is like I think the biggest. Where did this come from? A company that was previously releasing video models and is now giving us. What would we use this for even? I'm struggling to fill the 2 million context window in Gemini often. And how? These are like the main two questions.
It's huge, yeah.
It's absolutely remarkable, right?
I had some log file analysis to do this week, so I was it was more context than OpenAI could handle. I think their limit is 128K with the API, and on the web interface just 32K. So I had to go to Sonnet because the 200,000K context, that was the minimum I needed. And so with 4 million, that is so much more. It's hard to imagine, but you could give it a whole log. I was just taking an excerpt of it. So you could give it a whole log and say, yeah, check for anomalies, check for why an error is happening and stuff like that. So that would be one use case where you need a lot of context if you don't want to filter yourself first. And it's cheap. For that much context, I did the benchmarking runs with the model using their API, and it cost me a few cents.
Yep, the API is absolutely. In addition to the fact that the model is open weights, we're gonna get to the license as well. They also released an API that's like very, very, very cheap as well compared to this. I thought that the API, at least what I saw on Open Router, that this model ended up on Open Router as well. That the API is 1 million tokens only. I'm not sure. I want to see this, Wolfram. I don't know if you saw this as well. I want to show and like talk about this. Maybe this is an Open Router fluke, and they just don't have support to show more. This could be, but I think they do show like on Gemini. I think they do show 2 million. So let's take a look together because I do want to show if that's correct, and I want to trust that Open Router does the thing correctly. But if you go to Open Router and you show for Minimax Minimax, you see that they support 1 million context in input plus output.
Yeah, open router is usually pretty accurate about.
Yeah,
what
open
they
router is
support
pretty
because-
accurate. So Gemini, let's look at Gemini for example. Gemini experimental 1206, they show 2.1 million contexts.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
output is 8K. So
We're trying to run it. Someone I know that I was helping out with is trying to run it on the AMD boxes at the full 4 million to do the testing. I just did the testing on their own app, and it was fantastic. It just got the Martian questions right. It's really, the first few tries that I did to it looks pretty good. It just
it's a good model.
in one shot, very hard questions. Then I was asking it stuff about COBOL and just other random things to try and do like data gen work. It was very good at that. The question about like an orbital launcher in Mars, it just did all the complicated step-by-step calculations, got it perfectly on first try. So it passed the vibe check, and usually when it passes the vibe check, it means that the benchmarks are probably pretty accurate.
So vibe check, yes.
Yeah.
Novel lightning attention architecture that they offer, that they say offers like exceptional performance and efficiency for long context understanding. So this like even 1 million context is, if you guys remember, outside of Gemini at 2 million, nobody offers that length of context besides Qwen. Qwen is the only one in Qwen Pro that offers 1 million. Anthropic offers 500,000, I believe, but nobody else offers like 500,000 besides Qwen. And now these folks are offering this. I want to add final comments. Open Router says 1 million output in the context window. Again, I'm not sure that this is correct, but they're saying that the output is 1 million as well. Is that?
I found something on the API documentation of the minimaxi.com site. They have the max tokens is a maximum for this model is 1 million and 1 million, not 4 million.
For the API?
Yeah, for the official API.
Okay, so we're confirmed. So the model itself supports, and I read this in the documentation in the paper as well. They trained the model with 1 million during training, and they extended the context length with rope via positional
encoder.
Decoder. I forgot the exact acronym for rope. Rotated embeddings, something. They trained
rotary positional encodings. And isn't it funny that we had the authors of that paper before anyone even knew what it was? Like Enrico Cipolla from News that actually invented the yarn extension, yet another rope extension, yet another rotational
yarn
position
and rope and Enrico.
And that was over a year something ago.
Bowen and Mozilla. A long time ago on ThursdAI, we talked to these folks, and now like everybody uses this to extend context, including Meta. And so these folks used rope to take the 1 million that they've trained, which is crazy on its own. Imagine the data you need to train with 1 million context to train with it, and they extended it to 4 million, but the API is supporting 1 million. So the model itself 4 million, API supports up to 1. I'm assuming that this is just like hardware requirements on the API part.
It's also accuracy, because if you do yarn or dynamic yarn, you can actually lose accuracy at under the multiplier. So at under 1 million, it can be less accurate, but then above 1 million, it will actually be a lot smarter of a model. So you have to go above the multiplier to actually get that effect. So it does make sense for them to only offer the API at 1 million, because you also get more accuracy. It's just yarn's kind of strange that way.
Absolute bonkers for the needle in a haystack as well. You guys visualize this like blue a checker box, kind of like a GitHub submission matrix, right? Everything's green. They have a fully green percentage needle in a haystack, but they measure 4 million tokens. It's crazy. All of it is green. Not only that, if you guys remember, we talked about how needle in a haystack is not a perfect measurement of context. And then NVIDIA came up with the ruler benchmark, and the ruler shows effective context. That it takes needle in a haystack to the next level, and they show in the needle in a haystack, so they show in the ruler benchmark that Minimax, all the way up to 1 million, they don't lose coherence in context that much. So like all the way up to 1 million, they get 91%, even at 1 million. Gemini Pro, for example, gets 85%. So they perform, and Gemini Flash gets like 70% at 500K tokens. So significant performance all the way up to 1 million. That's according to what they claim, which is very, very impressive. They say first large-scale implementation of lightning attention mechanism. This is their own thing. So not only a model, but also they released a new attention mechanism, which I don't see any details about the attention mechanism. So it looks like the model was released and also deployed.
It might be from, wait, I'm not too sure. I don't know if that's from Lightning AI, because Lightning AI as a company has been around for a while, and they have, it's like one of the initial core contributors of PyTorch had started Lightning AI. So I was looking if it's related to that, but it doesn't seem to. We'll have to look. We'll have to look that
Whether
up.
or not the lightning attention that they mentioned is Lightning AI related.
Yeah, I don't. Actually, it doesn't look like it. There's another paper called Lightning Attention too. So maybe we'll do a paper reading on that or something.
That'll be a good idea. Yeah. Wolfram, you mentioned this. API process is ridiculously cheap. For this context, 2 cents per million input tokens. So that's, you can maximize the whole window and wait, 20 cents, not 2 cents, 20 cents.
Yes, 20
Yeah.
cents per minute.
You can just like fully maximize the whole million context window and just like say 20 cents per pop and just like fully send 1 million tokens, 20 cents. And if you do it with Gemini, it's going to cost you, let's do Gemini. Actually, don't know how much it's going to cost Gemini because I think it's showing free still.
I can tell you on O1 Preview, which you get on Open Router, a 50,000 token input and 4,000 token output cost me like $1.40 per pop.
Yep.
That's expensive.
Yes.
So yeah, that's going to be like
significantly different.
That's going to be like $15 a pop at if you were to do it at 1 million, which they don't offer, but it's yeah. Also to note, Qwen 1 million, when Junyang announced it here, they haven't released the model, but the 1 million Qwen is also an MOE, and they were also doing some attention, some sparse attention tricks. It's also in their report as well. So this does look similar to that,
which they didn't release. You're talking about Qwen Pro over the API that they didn't release.
Well, no, there's Qwen Pro and then there's Turbo. Turbo is the 1 million.
Is the 1 million?
Yeah. Pro I think is just it's regular 128K. I'm gonna make a prediction and to say Qwen might just like yarn extend the 1 million to 4, and because they can just do that pretty easily. Yeah.
So now just to recap, now we have Google providing 2 million via Gemini, and now we have 2 Chinese providers providing 1 million context window for Qwen Turbo, and now we have Hailuo Minimax 01 providing 1 million tokens for very, very affordable prices. One thing that I noticed is that, first of all, our friends at Qwen, by the way, last Thursday before, we probably should mention this, they released a web interface with all the Qwen models as well, so we can like compare now. These folks now, they have a web interface that you can test things, and they have a web grounding. And one thing that surprised me, folks, I don't know if you went to check this or not, but one thing that completely surprised me, the Minimax browsing beat ChatGPT and Perplexity at the question yesterday. That was mind-blowing to me. So if you're following some latest news, and you want to read something, Perplexity wasn't able to answer the latest news for me. Neither was ChatGPT. Grok answered this immediately, and as expected from Grok, because it taps into Reddit. For some reason, Reddit, I don't know if Musk struck a deal with Reddit or they're like scraping it illegally. I'm not sure, but it works. And then also obviously reads from X. This is like one of the benefit, but also Minimax answered that question. I was very, very surprised. So not like the model. So yes, we are now talking about the model that was released in the open source. Let me just like show you what I'm talking about. But they have the 1 second. Oops. They have the chat interface for this model, and that chat interface is grounded in in search. There's like a button there. If you go to minimaxi.com, I believe minimaxi.com.
I have it open as well. I was using it. It's pretty
good, right?
The articles are pretty spot on. Usually only like 1 or 2 years or like the very recent.
So you go to minimaxi.ai chat, and there's a checkbox there that says search the web, and you ask it, I don't know.
What are the latest? Let's see if it knows of Zenova's Kokoro release, because that was
Is there a way to run Kokoro in the browser?
Yeah.
Let's see.
So
it does a search grounding search, and I think it does it better than Perplexity. Running directly with the browser is not straightforward. No, it doesn't know it yet.
I want to give note that also DeepSeek
Grok
search
probably knows this.
When I used the DeepSeek search, it had a lot of sites which are all in Chinese and that like you don't have access to. Like, when I was clicking the sources, I couldn't log into the site, but DeepSeek had access to it. So DeepSeek also has like a pretty good grounding. It might not be as great at the latest news, but it's pretty good.
So anything else? Yeah, going back. Anything else that we have to talk about? Minimax. Yes. This one. Not only the Wolfram. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I meant the license, but go on. We can talk about the license at the end.
Yeah. So in addition to the model itself, they also released a multimodal version called Minimax VL01, which is exactly this model with a encoder, vision transformer on top of it, a 300 million vision transformer on top of it. So if you want this exact model that also sees, they have that, and they have top level performance across vision tasks as well. They get like very, very good doc VQA. They get very good chart QA as well. They come close to or beat Claude 3.5 Sonnet and GPT-4o. They get a little bit lower on the MMMU Pro, but get like very competitive scores as well to like foundational labs. In a open weighted model, though hard to run open weighted model, right? Like it's a very, very big one. They trained it on 512 billion vision language tokens on like 690 million image caption pairs. Like a lot of data that they found with dynamic resolution feature as well. So it doesn't you don't have to provide like very specific images as well. So on its own, that's a great model. But also the vision model that they released also has quite a few advances that we've seen. Like it beats Qwen VL72. Obviously, this size is like four times the size, I think. So like we would expect 4 times the size model to beat Qwen VL, but still, it's quite up there with all the releases. I'm very, very impressed. Yeah, let's talk about the license.
Yeah, the license is it's not an open source license per se. So you can use it if you don't have more than, I think, 100 million monthly active users. Then you need a separate license. And what was the other thing? Yeah, they can revoke it at any time. You can't use it to train other models. So the license isn't directly linked, but it's in the Hugging Face repository where the model weights are. There you can check the license for the exact terms. Always do that, of course. Yeah, so it's not fully open source like an Apache license, but it's still it allows commercial use in certain restrictions. So better than some research-only licenses. So it's not really a negative. It's not the perfect positive, but it's still good. And one thing I wanted to add is while it is pretty cheap, when you use the official API, the minimum you can charge your card or the minimum you have to put in as credits is $25. so that you can just pay per use. So you have to put some money in, and that was a minimum of $25.
You can apply for the developer advocate thing, I saw, and they can give you some credits as well. So yeah, Hilo Minimax looks like a great model, folks. Like, looks like overall great release in open weights, and they look like they want to reach out to the developer community. Hopefully we'll talk to them at one of those. Nista, any final thoughts on how they're achieving some of the stuff, or like some very interesting things before we
No,
move on?
but I think at 47B active parameters, this will still be able to run on CPU under I think 256 gigs would be like the bare minimum, but you need around like 300 gigs of RAM or VRAM. So it should be able to run okay on CPU. And
will this
by the
run
way,
on my NVIDIA project, whatever, I forgot the name already.
No, but if you have 500, like 256 gigs of RAM, and you have an NVIDIA 4090, you could actually like put the context of the model on the card, and it would help quite a bit to do the splitting. So it is almost like achievable for home use for not that much money, because 256 gigs of RAM is still purchasable. Like it's expensive, but it's not that expensive. So because you can just buy 832 gig or 64 gig RAM sticks for relatively cheap. I think they're like $70. So, but yeah, for like $500 of RAM, you could actually run this on a CPU. So there's that. So it does make it a bit easier than DeepSeek V2. And for the record, I was able to get higher speeds on an Amazon CPU last week than people were able to get on 8 H200s on NVIDIA.
For DeepSeek?
Yeah, for DeepSeek. Because again, there's very few active parameters. So as long as you treat the whole model like a monolith, and it's all in one CPU RAM, you can actually get pretty good speeds. But this overall will actually run slower than DeepSeek V3, even though it is a smaller model, because you have more active parameters. Anyway, we're trying it out. It's good. I don't know. It's pretty good. You can run on your own.
Yeah.
You can have full control. So
and the context is
massive contribution on their part.
Yeah.
Like, it's just huge. Yeah.
And report as well. Overall,
and the longest context. So it's like having a 1 million context DeepSeek now. That's pretty nuts.
Do you guys remember like a few short years ago, we got excited from 4K to 8K context jumps. We're like, yes, 8K context, we can paste twice the size. And now 1 million, we're like, oh yeah, we already had 1 million. Yeah,
I had to do hospital use for GPT 3.5. We had to limit it to 2K and figure out how to do chunking with 2K and do mini summaries and stuff. And
are we going to be like the old, like people who remember that Mario used to turn the bushes into clouds to save memory, and we remember this, and the kids are like, what? 7,000 billion context window, we don't even care. We're going to be like this. Yeah, we remember the context window mattered, and they're going to be like, we're just going to abuse. The worst thing that I heard, unrelated to anything, we're going to skip to the next thing, is that somebody told me, and then from now on, I also do this now, unrelated to anything, it's just like an anecdote, that in Cursor, you can ask Cursor, the LLM, to format code for you. So I know you can use the IDE to format code, right? Like this is built into the IDE. That's what IDE does. But you can select the thing and you can ask the IDE like, hey, take this chunk of code and just reformat it. Don't fix bugs. Don't create new code. Don't do anything. Just like literally just like send it for formatting, which for some people is like the most like burn the planet abuse of like LLM intelligence possible. But it works. It works super fast because like Cursor, like editing algorithm is not super fast. It feels like so abusive to use this like level of intelligence for formatting. But yeah, people do this. Right. Moving on
that note, there is some news on that note, because people were complaining, or someone at Anthropic was complaining, that a large part of Anthropic's use is from Cursor. And that this is why they're hitting rate limits and cannot keep up with
Boo-hoo. I'm sorry.
I'm going to find the source, because it looked pretty credible that Anthropic is struggling to just keep up with the use from just from Cursor as an IDE, because it just uses Sonnet by default. Also to note, Cursor has their own model. I'm not sure. I tried to look if it's integrated, but I couldn't see the weights inside it. But they have their own model for doing Git merges. So now I don't know if the reformatter is Cursor's own model, or if it is just sending it to Sonnet. So that's
no. Like you choose whatever like model you want in the command K. It's not like a specific feature or reformer. You're like you ask the model to do stuff for you. Just like the stuff that you ask is reformatting. All right.
Okay.
Nistan, let's choose one of those as the next thing to talk about. I think that Sky T1 is interesting, and then also OpenBNB is very interesting. And then we're gonna actually like showcase OpenBNB. I think it's gonna be very interesting because we're getting like a conversational like model basically on your phone. But I want to talk about Sky T1. It's a reasoning model. I guess it's a 32 billion parameter. Let's talk about Sky T1. Let me just like do the announcement or whatever thing. So it's a. Let me go to the blog. Nova Sky, a company that released a new reasoning model that they used a data generation from Quen Quill, right? So they used, and we know that this happened before, and we're going to chat about this, and released Sky T1, a 32 billion parameter preview reasoning model that they claim they trained for less than $450, not $1,000, less than $1,000, not millions, etc. Just $450. Demonstrating that it's possible to replicate high-level reasoning capabilities affordably and efficiently. They released all code in open source. You can go and see the SkyThought GitHub open source. They did rejection sampling from Quen Quill, and then they generated like data from that. I'm actually not showing anything.
They reformatted it with GPT 4.0 mini or 01 mini. I think it was 4.0 mini. That's how, because 4.0 mini is a very, very good formatter. I've used that in datasets itself, and it's cheap enough that it is actually very affordable to do. So super smart of them to do it that way. You get like a very high scoring model, but that sometimes can like ramble a lot. You know how Quill can go on forever. And then they got a model which does not necessarily bring out the best answers or anything, but it always formats stuff perfectly, and it's good at multilingual. So if Quill outputted stuff in Chinese and stuff, you would get then 4.0 mini to make it a very nice data set. And that's actually like the most efficient way to just use all the tools at your disposal. And yeah, also, this is a team from Berkeley. I don't know if they're related to the team that released the Starling data set, which is like an insanely good data set for I use it in mobile data. So yeah, I'm not that surprised that such a team would be able to pull this off. But yeah, take the 450 with a grain of salt, because yes, it is true, but also you have a pretty amazing team, which is likely to be extremely expensive in terms of work hours.
They're not mentioning how much. They literally talk about estimating Lambda cloud pricing. So they talk about the model was trained for 3 epochs, learning rate 1E-5, and batch size of 96. Model training finishes 19 hours on 8 H100 with deep speed 0.3, and according to Llama cloud pricing. We can click the 1B log here that they shared, which is incredible, and we can see that you can see the loss. Where's the loss rate?
It's actually a slow learning rate.
Yeah,
but,
you can see the loss rate here. You can see all the 1B logs, which is incredible. Shout out 1B. Woohoo.
Also, really quickly, just to fire off stuff, because I understand we have a lot. The fact that they did this not on the Quill model, not on the reasoning model, but they used the regular Quen Coder 32B, which is an excellent model, by the way. I think that is still my most used daily model out of all of them. So they added this reasoning to an existing very good, very good model. Also, I was ranked 6th global with the Frankenstein, and that was built off of the same ones, the same
Wait,
base.
you're saying that this is a fine tune of the Quen model?
Yeah, this is a fine tune on the regular Quen
2.5
32B instruct. Yeah, yeah, on the instruct. And the Frankenstein that I made also used the same ones, and that got highly ranked. So I'm not that surprised. Some people were really doubting how high the benchmarks went on this, but I'm not that surprised. They picked an excellent base, and the data set makes sense, and it's from I don't know it's the same team that made Starling, but yeah, this is legit.
So here's what actually happened then. They took an excellent base model that's not a reasoner. They used another reasoner model, created samples for reasoning, cleaned them up with GPT 4.0, right? And then made with just a little bit of fine tuning, made the reasoner that like very good on benchmarks. So they jumped from 76 in the base to 82. 82 in Math 500. They jumped from 16% in AI Me 2024. So competition Math 2.
Math Olympia, that's a huge jump. Like
from 16 to 43.
Yeah.
O1 Preview is at 40. So they beat O1 Preview, and then Quill is at 50. I think that O3 is like 97 or whatever. O3 just basically beat this AI Me. Like, I don't know. It's crazy. But yeah, they took the 16, like basically a regular non-thinker, non-reasoner cannot do competition math. We know the reasoners can now solve this because they have like the chain of thought built in. This is now at 43% of competition math. Significant jump also on live code bench hard from 9.8 to 17. Impressive numbers. And then they also talked about open sourcing everything, data, code. So unlike Quill, unlike Journey, unlike Steel 2, the reasoner, they open source the data and the code and the report, like everything, including, I don't know what coding domain is, but yeah, they open sourced everything, including the technical details and model weights. So if you folks are interested in the process of how to do this, this is everything is outlined here in the thing, and we're gonna add this in the show notes. Everything's outlined in their Nova Sky blog. So shout out to Nova Sky for this massive effort. And also, when you release a 1B log, I'm gonna shout you out on ThursdAI because go 1B, right? Like we know you're training with weights and biases. Release those logs. It's gonna help the transparency. Like, look, we can look at your last curves. Look at how beautiful your last curves were. Look, just look at how beautiful this is. 500 epochs, very nice. Right, folks, we're moving forward because we need to talk about a bunch of other stuff. And the stuff that I want to talk about is OpenBNB. So, okay, just briefly mentioning multiple things. Gina Reader, lovely model. We love Gina. Gina Reader turns your HTMLs in a very tiny 1.5 billion parameter model into markdowns and JSON files, structured JSON files. So you can extract any type of information from an HTML into a JSON. You can do so with like Gemini, etc. This you can do completely off the books in your browser even. I think like, if we like tap Zenova can turn this into like a Gina Reader JS or something super quick. And Gina Reader is like its incredible model, is significantly better than the previous one, Gina Reader V2. Outperforms models like Qwen 2.5 32B and Gemini 2 Flash Experimental on those tasks, but it's a tiny model, and also directly converts it to JSON. They talked about converting a huge table of their like legal stuff. Oh, Zenova said sure. Yes, I just want to highlight this for the folks. Zenova said, hey, of course we can do it. So now expect this to happen at some point soon. We'll shout out Zenova later in the show because Kokoro.js is incredible. So this is Gina Reader for you. A Reader V2 version of their model is just wonderful. So shout out to folks at Gina.
Also, they have one of the best RAG APIs in the industry as well. And also, I'm gonna be releasing a tool based on that model. It's not like a web tool later on today, so stay tuned for that. You just make a RAG out of any folder, so it'll just be an open source tool. Yeah. Gina makes some really nice tools. I think they're based out of Berlin or something, if I'm wrong.
German as well. Maybe worth getting them into your Cologne community. All right. This thing is what I actually wanted to highlight, and maybe we can show how it works. Although I'm not sure with the sound and everything set up. OpenBNB released mini CPM Omni, Mini CPM-O. We've talked about Mini CPM multiple times here. It's like an agent thing that does like a bunch of stuff. Mini CPM-O is a multimodal model now. It's a 3.8. I want to see the size of the. I don't know if I saved the size. Let me go and check the logs. Check the Captain logs. Mini CPM. Mini. Oh, let me go and open this up. Mini CPM Omni Web Demo. So I can actually show you.
It's an
8B. Yeah, it's an 8 billion Omni model, 8 billion parameter Omni model. Hopefully the chat will load. The chat didn't load for me yesterday. You can join it here with a video call. And do you guys remember how excited we were when ChatGPT showed us a demo of ChatGPT seeing stuff? I'll rewind back. Some of you may remember when Google showed a real-time understanding that Gemini sees like a duck, and then the person draws and asks, what is this? And it's a duck and whatever. And we got like all excited. And Google lied. That wasn't like an actual thing. And we were like, oh my God, the Google lied to us. That was like Google it was a year ago. That was a year ago. A year ago, Google, with all its might, with like the huge company, showed the demo that was fake, that does this, what we're just about to show you, that an 8 billion parameter model that you can download does. It's absolutely insane, the speed with which we're moving. So I can actually do a demo for you. I don't think that you will be able to hear. Should I do it somehow in a way where you'd be able to hear?
Maybe if we can just hear the speech out or speech in separately.
Yeah, let me see. I can just read out. I'll tell you. But so basically they have a real-time video call interface, and here we go. It kind of looks at me, and I can show it something like this can right here, and I can ask it, hey, what is the name of this drink? So I don't know who of course, the law of demos, it started answering in Chinese, but definitely it worked for me before in English.
I had that as well.
Yeah,
it suddenly started speaking other languages.
Suddenly it started speaking in Chinese. But you have a web interface for real-time video call and also voice call, so you can like chat with this. The cool thing about this specific model is that because it's Omni model, it understands kind of the sounds itself and not only speech, so it doesn't turn your speech into TTS. Like that's what we learned from OpenAI TTS, and the output also is weird. I don't know, Wolfram. Maybe can you share? Maybe can you share that?
Okay,
then folks can hear. Let me send you the link.
I have it. I already have it open. I
awesome,
just have to share the browser.
Remove.
Present.
Let's you have a demo with real-time video call and then show it something. Let's see if folks can appreciate the real-timeness of this thing.
Okay, I hope it's working.
You're doing a voice call, correct? Or video call? Let's do a video call.
What do you want?
Let's do a video call. Video is way better. Like this is like the thing that we get excited about.
Okay, let's see. Can turn on the interruption so we can interrupt it.
Yes.
And then let's see. Okay, have to confirm the permissions. I don't know if it will interfere here. We will see. It looks good. It works. Not the nice background I'm used to, but okay. The basement layer.
That's all right.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
画面中有一个戴着耳机。
I had that before. I will just restart it and try to speak more English. Hello, let's talk in English. Say hello to me. Let us talk English and say hello.
Keep in mind
Let's talk English. Now it's sent. Wait. Let's try one more time. I will.
Yeah, maybe without the video, because the video would put like a lot of load on it.
Yeah, but we can test it if it is. Oh, good. Hello, can you hear me? Speak English and say hello. What am I holding? What am I doing? Now it's sent.
你正拿着一个游戏手柄，它看起来像是用于
All
电
right,
子游戏
so
的方
folks,
式，相当于互动的体验。
the gods of live demos for some reason are not with us present. But yesterday I tried it out and it read out. I'll flash this here because super quick. You don't want to see this, right? This is a check that I got from my insurance company. It read out all the numbers on the check, including my name and everything, like super quick. And because it's an Omni model, it read it out in multiple voices. Like it started with one voice and then it like read out also it was a Chinese like lady voice, but read out in English, but like in different intonations as well. Like the voice it generates is generative voice. It's not like a TTS the same voice as well. Like it generates like different voices as well. It's crazy that it's an 8 billion parameter model that you can stream video into and it actually works.
It did
Of
work.
course,
It worked
it works
much
for you as
better
well,
than
right?
this. Yeah, and I was holding this gamepad like this, and it was saying, "Yeah, it's a gamepad." And
Wait, look. Somebody
Yeah,
tells us
just-
on X as a comment, the Chinese was saying you were holding some sort of electronic device.
okay, at least the recognition is great. What I did not make happen was talk like a pirate or sing for me. It couldn't do that, unfortunately.
So not fully Omni like we're used to. But also, hey, OpenAI's advanced voice mode does also not tell you to sing. Like does also not sing because they ruined it.
You have to jailbreak it.
Yes, we have to jailbreak this. So what else is the mini CPM do? They have some impressive numbers on there. The streaming bench, I didn't know there's an eval for streaming. They claim that they beat Gemini on streaming bench. Some people are, I saw on Reddit, like some people are not like, they're like, I'm not quite sure. So they also claim in some of their numbers that they outperform GPT-4 in real-time audio understanding tasks. I didn't get that. I tried to talk to it very clearly, and I have my accent and everything. But like, come on, they're not outperforming GPT-4 in understanding. I've had multiple conversations with advanced voice mode, so I will take their claims with a grain of salt, even on evals. But the fact that we have an 8 billion parameter model that you can run on your Mac, that you can stream video to, and it understands the stuff that happens in the video, I think it's mind blowing. Even though the demo didn't quite work, I think that it's just like I didn't get the same evals performance that they're showing, but the fact that like this is a tiny model that does this is quite impressive.
And it may be in Chinese or Singaporean or whatever.
Yeah.
No, but for document reading, the past mini CPM is a very used model. Like this is a well-known tool. So
They're getting Doc VQA, like state-of-the-art almost Doc VQA like performance as well.
These benchmarks are likely to be accurate. I mean, there's always problems with benchmarks, but this is not some new company making random claims. Like they've performed very well before. So.
And so what's new here is like the continuous video input. And then the continuous video input is what's new here. I really wanted to connect it to my like Meta Ray-Bans and then like try to like have it see what I see all the time. I think I found a way to do it. And the only way to do it with Meta Ray-Bans is you go live on like Facebook or Instagram, and then you feed that feed into the model. Like this is the way that people do it. This is the only way. Like you can't hack those Meta Ray-Bans, but like this is the only way to do it. So that's what I want to do. We'll see if that's going to be possible. So omni-modal live streaming mechanism for mini CPM. This is the new thing. And then leading visual capability. That's what they say. And they claim that they surpass GPT-4o with a tiny model in image understanding. And
remember that. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So the voice model is only it's a 200M, it's a chat TTS. So I suspect they can probably just swap that out for Kokoro. The input model is just whisper medium. It's regular whisper medium. And then for
wait, so it's not Omni? Like I was entirely sure.
No, it is Omni with projection layers. But I mean, all Omni models are with projection layers. I think there's only like the DeepSeek experimental one was like actual Omni. Anyway, we're confusing people even more. But it's built with a Siglit for 400M and Whisper Medium and Chat TTS, and they're just very well integrated with the 7B model, which I think they said it was Coinbase or it was their own. I don't remember that apart correctly. Either way, it's pretty dope. Should use it. I think people already use this for vast document scanning.
Building your own chatbot that's like video integrated has never been like simpler and closer to your home. And onboard robotics, like vision, is very close. I think that's mostly it in the open source LLM part. InterLM we can mention as a kind of honorable mention for InterLM. The only thing in InterLM that I wanted to mention is that they're getting very close to state of the art with significantly less training data. That's I think the most honorable mention. So just skipping forward, InterLM released an 8 billion instruct model and with Apache 2 license. Which is always to be celebrated. State-of-the-art performance on reasoning and knowledge that beats Qwen 2.57b, and then they trained it on 4 trillion tokens compared to like Qwen 2.57b was almost like 20 trillion or like 18 trillion. So like with only 4 trillion tokens, they're getting very close to that level, and they're getting competitive results with just 75% of the training costs. So we're seeing multiple things. We're seeing either same level performance of LLMs or significantly better, or same level performance with significantly less training costs or data. So, and then of course, Apache 2 license is great. I tried it. I wasn't that super impressed, but I've tried it and it was okay. On the benchmarks, the InterLM was kind of like, okay, not competing with even the mini part on benchmark. So besides the fact that it's Apache 2 license, I haven't seen anything like super interesting, folks. But like the attempt of theirs to get this model to train it very cheap, I think is what's notable here.
Yeah, I posted a graph with my updated benchmarks where I have the SkyT1, Minimax, and the InterLM on it. So InterLM, of course, for the size, it's on the right side where the verse models are, if you will. But many models of that size don't even show up in the graph because I have the 50% cutoff. So for the small models, they are progressing as well.
Right. So last thing that I'll honorably mention in our open source LLMs, and as I said, there's a lot to talk about. Drea Agent Alpha is a 3 billion model that's interesting and unique because of this one thing. It's a Qwen fine-tune. By the way, do you guys notice how Qwen just like absolutely replaced Mistral in the base for all the fine-tunes? Like all of the fine-tunes that we talked about, Mistral is not even like remotely here. It's all Qwen. So shout out to Junyang and Binyua and like all of the friends from Qwen. Like Qwen is now the absolute source of everything, including some stuff from like I think Meta released some Qwen fine-tunes. You remember? Like shout out, like huge shout out to Qwen team for like this incredible achievement that like they upheaved like open source industry. Like all of the fine-tunes are now Qwen. It's incredible. So putting this aside, Drea Agent Alpha is a Qwen fine-tune, 3 billion, 7 billion parameters on this new framework that calling for agents specifically. That's why they called Alpha. That instead of telling this model to do tool use or agent or tool use or function calling via JSON instructions. So as developers, usually when you tell an LLM like, hey, I want you to I have these tools for you to use. I want you to tell me which tools you want to use. So, for example, if you have an agent that needs to send an email or translate something or go search the web, you tell it by saying, hey, I wrote this function in my code base. This function gets these parameters. The outputs are this. And you provide the LLM this information via like JSON instructions, give you back JSON instructions. These folks fine-tune this, and instead of giving the JSON instructions, and parameters, they do it with Python function calling. What they say this allows the model to do then is to combine multiple functions one after another to chain those functions. So for example, if you have one function that calls another function that calls another function, this allows the model to know what the output of one function could then send to another function and significantly, to some extent, improve function calling metrics. Not significantly so. That's very interesting. So completely like different approach, but improves enough on the Qwen base in function calling and getting close to GPT-4o function calling in like in multiple function calling benchmarks. So interesting approach. I haven't seen novel approaches like this, so I wanted to shout this out for folks who are building agents. This could be interesting in Python. That's it. Anything else, Nista, want to hear from you? If tool use novelty is interesting at all?
No, but there's a call out even from the CEO of Ansloth to make more tool use and function calling fine tunes of Qwen, especially because the Qwen coders were not very, that was the one thing that they weren't really trained for. So they weren't really trained for function calling, so it's a little bit tricky to make them do that. They can still do that, but yeah, if someone can please make Qwen32b instruct coder fine tune for function calling, please do. Otherwise, so I don't have to make it myself. Yeah, this would work. I don't. Again, it's they've just again shout out to the Qwen team. We were using them even before it was cool. Like, we knew since Qwen 1 that they were just like workhorse models, and they were like very easy
100%
to train. So that's the thing that kept them going forward. They didn't just like overpower these and make them into complete solutions. Is because there was so much back and forth from the community, they ended up making an architecture that is easy to train, and that also benefited them in the long term. With comparison, like if you compare Gemma at first was not easy to train. Like it was a little bit difficult and so on. So yeah, I'm not surprised. It took him a lot of work to just get to that point. That's not just out of nowhere. Yeah.
Super quick. I want to ask both of you, super quick. Well, I also have to, Nisa, I want to update about GitHub GG. I think that folks who follow us maybe heard that what you guys are cooking over there, and maybe give us like 2 minutes of what's the latest. You mentioned in the beginning of the episode that you have some folks talking to you. Can you give us like a little bit of an update, like what's going on?
Yeah, so we're struggling just to keep the site up right now because
can you give like what it is, so for folks who have no idea what's going on? Can you give like a 2 minutes explanation of what GitHub GG is and what's going on?
People want to use any GitHub, literally any GitHub, with they want to use it in an LLM. So all we did is you just change the github.com link. You just change the .com to .gg anywhere you are, and you get like a nice long summary of that. So that project kind of blew up, and now we're seeing so much traffic that it barely holds together. But github.com crashed too, so you can give us an excuse for now until we get our DevOps down. So yeah, we got approached. We got approached for the data set, and we also have Gemini Flash integrated. Our own model, the DevOps could not keep up just with the demand, because we see up to 1,500 users an hour now. So we just like can't afford to host our own model at the moment. And now we have some big bank in Europe that wants us to make something for them related to this. It's they just want something to help out with the COBOL transitions. So it looks like we're not gonna need any VC investment because as they say, life gives to the giver. So if you just make something cool and people use it, and you're not a bottlehead about the whole thing, then contracts just come to you. So you don't really have to if you're focused on what you're doing instead of taking, then so yeah, that worked out for us so far. So yeah, we're gonna have that. We have a very, very interesting new chat interface coming up, which is very very different. And I was also looking at integrating Open Hands into it, but again, it's just a DevOps issue. So yeah, so we'll have enough compute, it looks like, to actually support entire environments for people to just like securely run GitHub repos and just mess around with that. So yeah, right now you can just prompt it for Gemini, but yeah, just take any github.com link and just change it to .gg. And especially if you have documents, like if you go to the docs site of a GitHub and you just change that link to .gg, now you get all your docs in just one copy paste. And that's a very nice way to use it. So again, this was a troll project that we just launched, and even Cloudflare's workers could not keep up. So we had to go from serverless to DevOps-less. So we just had one big server handle it up until now, and now that's also running out. So we need to go back to distributed. So yeah, I've been pretty busy with that. And also, there's another very open source project with like one doctor that approached me on Clubhouse, and that should come out soon. That'll be like completely open. It's not a product for sale or anything. It's just to do transcriptions on your phone for medical conversations. So we'll be releasing that as well. So yeah, I've been busy. Those are the updates on my end, and you guys all follow me on Twitter. Just like Wolfram got approached, someone recognized their voice at the Intel meetup with Ryan. Someone came up to me and he's like, "I recognize your voice from ThursdAI." So yeah, see you guys around, I guess.
Yeah. So when you come to, if you're able to get a spot in the Toronto Tinkerers AI, which, as far as I heard,
I got a spot. I'm just waiting for...
Not you specifically. I'm talking to our listeners. Yeah. If any of our listeners got a spot in the Toronto Tinkerers AI, that I will tell you that I know Joe, the organizer from Tinkerers Global, 682 registered to the next Tinkerers in Toronto as of 1 hour ago. 682 people. That's a lot of people to have registered to a very tiny, so probably waitlisted to Oblivion. Nistan is going to do a demo there. Hopefully,
I haven't been approved for the demo, but I guess they're taking their time.
I see.
But at least I got the...
You got the spot, but not the demo spot. Okay, cool.
No, not the.
But Nistan will be there with a laptop, so if you want a demo in the Tinkerers, come up. All right, folks. Nistan, it's funny you should mention. Open Hands as something you want to add there, because as if by magic, we have the person that's somehow in charge of Open Hands. Welcome with us, Graham. Welcome, Graham. Folks, we want to welcome to the stage Graham Newbig from All Hands AI, the folks that work on Open Hands. Graham's second appearance on the show. Graham, you're welcome to also join the Twitter space on a different tab and mute it as well, so folks can also follow you, and they see you on Twitter space as well. And meanwhile, I will say that this is your second time on the show, that you've already came here before, and when you came here, the project was used to be called Open Devon. And while you do the joining and everything, I'll add you to the stage, etc. I will say that folks who are joining right now, I will remind you that ThursdAI is a weekly show that's sponsored by Weights and Biases. And so now we're sliding into the corner that I like to call this week's buzz, and we'll start there, and then we're gonna have a chat with Graham about Open Hands and All Hands. Let's do this week's buzz. Alrighty, so welcome to this week's buzz, a category on ThursdAI that I mentioned everything that is new and exciting about from Weights and Biases this week. So again, as a reminder for folks who just joined, my name is Alex Volkov. My day job is an AI evangelist with Weights and Biases. This day job is also a weekend job. This weekend we were in San Francisco hosting a evals sprint in our San Francisco office, and many CTOs and founders of companies came to build evals at our offices at Weights and Biases, and it was great. It was a great show. So thank you everybody who came out. And then we also did 2 workshops in Seattle. So again, thanks for folks from the community who listened to the show that came out. An additional thing that we have is a course that we released also this week. I will let you guess about what this course is. Yes, of course, this course is about evals. As you know, we're all about evals this week. And one of the co-instructors, the guest instructors for this course is here with us. I want to say hi to Graham. Graham, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, would love for you to introduce yourself. Even though this is your second time here on the show, you've been here before. But back then we didn't do videos, so this is a new format for me. But for folks who are just listening in, would you mind to introduce yourself briefly and who you are and how people may know you?
Yeah, for sure. My name's Graham Newbig. I'm a professor at Carnegie Mellon University and also the chief scientist at All Hands AI. And at All Hands AI, we're making Open Hands, which is a AI coding agent that you can use to build software.
That's super awesome, and All Hands has been growing in popularity, and definitely Open Hands has contributed into this popularity. I've seen this all over my timeline. It used to be called Open Devon, last time that we talked at least, and I remember it started, as far as I remember, at least with a tweet. And I remember, like, I think Jun Yang introduced between us back then. Jun Yang is a frequent co-host of the show, and Quen models are something that we talk about. We actually just shouted out how important the Quen open source models are to the community as well. But now I want to focus on kind of those contributions, at least your contributions to the course that we just released. We had a course about evals. It's going very, very strong. We're getting a lot of feedback about your part specifically because agents and evaluating agents is very important. Would love to maybe hear from you kind of maybe one or two highlights of what you added to the course and like what you talked about. I heard some great feedback. I would love maybe like for you to give a little glimpse, a little taste for folks that maybe do want to go to the course. What is waiting for them if they take the very free course that we have, very short one as well?
Yeah, for sure. So in the course, I did a couple things. So the first thing that I did was I talked a little bit about kind of our lessons in evaluating agents. And evaluating agents is really tricky. In Open Hands, we basically have a harness that we use to evaluate, 16 different data sets that go from coding to web browsing to kind of like general assistance. And what we needed to do in order to make that happen was we basically needed to take each of the data sets that was, on Hugging Face, it had a different format, like kind of standardize it into a format that could be used together with our agents. So that's the first thing. And this is in contrast to a lot of like language models where people have already done this work. There's things like the language model evaluation harness and stuff like this, where it's already kind of been standardized, but agents are kind of in a more nascent state. So that's tricky. Another issue is evaluating agents is very expensive because you use a lot of tokens over and over and over again. And so that basically makes it, you need to be a little bit more careful and strategic about the evaluations you run. And so I talk a little bit about that, including like how we evaluate on smaller data sets and then scale up to bigger data sets. And also another part that I did there was I actually did a demo where we asked our coding agent to try to run an evaluation and then log it to Weights and Bias's new product, Weave. And it actually kind of worked. It was kind of fun to see the agent run the experiment itself and compare the results of Claude and GPT on being a language model as a judge. So those were two parts that I contributed there.
Yep. Weave is the product that I work on hard to promote. So I really appreciate the fact that you mentioned this and I don't have to. And definitely the folks that come to the evals course can enjoy seeing how quickly and easily is to integrate with. So thank you for shouting this out. And also thank you for joining our course and helping being as a guest host. Another guest host that we have here is Paige Bailey from Google. Very great DevRel, very good friend as well. And she shows how to do things with Imagen and VO and evaluate those. And definitely very interesting all-rounded course on evaluations, agents, and different multimodal stuff. So this is coming from Weights and Biases. Another thing that I'll briefly mention before we chat with Graham about Open Hands specifically is that we have an upcoming evals workshop together with Pinecone. So if you're in New York next week, January 22nd, if anything of what we talked about interests you and you want to evaluate your RAG applications or your agentic RAG. This is like a new thing that I start hearing. People just like take terms and combine them together. So agentic RAG is now like a new, very like important thing. So yeah, if you want to evaluate your agentic RAG, definitely tune into the. Sorry, I will add this to the show notes. We're coming up on our January 22nd event with Pinecone and Weights and Biases as well. This is, I think, most of what we have from this week's buzz. We had almost an upcoming breaking news from Weights and Biases. Yes. Breaking news from Weights and Biases. Not often do we hear breaking news from Weights and Biases, but we had upcoming breaking news. Maybe today, but not quite yet. I will hint about them super quick. In addition to all of the stuff that we're doing, our CTO and co-founder, Sean, who's also like we're in charge of building with, is also working on his own side project. So our founders and co-founders all working on side projects. Our co-founder is working on his own agent framework, or I don't know if it's a framework necessarily or it's an agent, and he's trying to beat Swift Verified, and he's very, very close. So I would watch his space. So we may have breaking news during the rest of the show. We'll definitely bring him up once he has this, but I would watch his space. This has been this week's buzz, and now we're moving on because I want to chat with Graham about open hands, because I've seen this in multiple places now, and it's been a while since we talked, and the project evolved from a community thing on GitHub a lot, and I would love to hear about how the evolution happened. We've talked a while ago, and recently it's been a thing of mine to bring people who we talked to a while ago after a year almost to see how they've been and what changed since then. So Graham, tell us about how the change from Open Devon to Open Hands happened. Tell us about All Hands as a company. I would love to hear like some progress and evolution in this area, and also like what's new and what can people expect when they first start Open Hands.
Yeah, so there's several things there. So the first thing is why did we switch from Open Devon to Open Hands? So the kind of project evolved as an open source project that we started right after Devon came out. I think a lot of people were inspired by, the idea of a coding agent for various reasons. I was inspired because, I'd been working on coding agents for a while, but the kind of packaging that they had was really nice. Other people had been inspired because they didn't know coding agents could do those sorts of things. But since then, we've kind of evolved beyond what Devon is doing. We do some things very different from what they're doing and things like that. And so, people were like, we're saying, oh, you're a Devon clone, right? And we wanted to move away from that because we're not anymore. And so I think that was one thing. Also, people who were working on the project got really excited about it and wanted to basically make it their full-time job. So Robert and Xingyao and I kind of founded a company around it, and now we have about 10 people working on the project. This includes all sorts of things. So, both agent quality, making sure that the agent is good, cost effectiveness, making sure that, we can run it for a reasonable amount of money and not break the bank for the people who are working on it, maintaining the community. And then we're also building an online version of Open Hands that anybody can use on their computer or their phone. So I really enjoy interacting with it on my phone. In terms of what it can do, I actually just wrote a blog post that we released yesterday on 8 things that you can do with coding agents, and including prompts that people can look up. This is on the All Hands AI blog if people are interested in taking a look at it. But it basically it includes both implementing features and squashing bugs, which people are familiar with. They're what are measured on SWE-bench, but it also includes things like fixing merge conflicts or fixing failing tests on GitHub, spinning up infrastructure so you can host your website, or doing data science tasks and things like this. So I'm actually pretty excited and amazed by the a big variety of things that a good coding agent can do, because code is powerful and it allows you to do a lot of things. So yeah, that's where we're at right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. First of all, it's great to see how many community starts at ThursdAI that started as open source contribution, etc. Roll into companies more and more. It's great. Moondream is one, Open Interpreter is one. It's quite incredible to see how this keeps happening, and how early we do those conversations, we keep bringing you guys back and no, it's a company and folks are working on this. It's incredible. So it's great to see. Tell us kind of the main challenges that your agents are running into right now, and what remains to be seen. And I have one follow-up that we've talked with João from Crew AI, which you probably heard about Crew AI, and I gotta wonder, because folks are talking about 2025, the year of AI agents. Everybody's trying to bring agents to enterprise, etc. What are some of the main challenges that you are trying to solve while the LLM keeps improving in intelligence, keeps improving in reasoning? What are still some of the main challenges you're okay, we're still not there?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of challenges. Number one, it's really amazing how much better agents have gotten, over the past 6 months or something. So when we first started out the project, I could not trust an agent to just go in and autonomously solve my problems. And now I can. In fact, OpenHands is the biggest contributor to OpenHands. So we're using it all the time to actually solve our own problems. That being said, there are still issues. So one very interesting thing is generating code is no longer the issue. It's more making sure that the right code gets generated, and the agent gets the right directions. And so one thing that we're working pretty hard on is to we are by now pretty adept prompters of agents. We can tell agents what to do, and we kind of know the right language to talk to them, the level of specification they need. But I think most people don't know this. So how can we essentially, get a library of prompts that people can use that allow them to effectively prompt agents to do particular tasks is one thing. Another thing is exploring large repositories is still tricky. I think SweBench scores are very much underestimating the difficulty of this, because SweBench is all based on open source projects that all the language models have seen already. So they kind of already know the directory structure of these projects and things. So when you put it on a code base that isn't in the language model training data, it suddenly becomes, a bit harder to find the files that you need to be modifying and stuff like that. And then a final issue, which is agents still kind of get in a bad state and can't escape from it. So they start doing something they shouldn't be doing, and then they try really hard to finish doing that thing when that's actually not the thing they should be doing. And so kind of being able to go back and revisit your underlying assumptions is not something that language models are very good at right now. And I think that might improve as language models get smarter, but I think we might also need a little bit of scaffolding to tell the agent, lightly, hey, you're on the wrong track. So those are the kind of agent quality issues. Separately from that, there's a lot of UI UX issues that need to be solved. How can we get humans to interact with agents in the most appropriate ways? But that's less on the ML side and more on the kind of UX side.
Yeah. One thing that struck me from the conversation with João is where I kind of in my head considered that the 2025 is the year of agents and also the year of reasoning, test time compute. That's the hugest explosion that I saw from the end of 2024. And he wasn't as getting excited as I was from the sidelines, right? He's building a platform for agents, etc. What's your take on reasoning and agents together? Have you guys played with reasoning models, O1 or other ones like Quill and the other ones? What's your take on agents and reasoning together? And is it improving agents? Is it competing with agents to some extent. I heard some takes while he wasn't very exciting. I heard some, commenters. They left a comment. People was like, he's not very excited because agents are a threat to like his whatever bottom line, whatever. I don't know. Would love to hear from you, like what reasoning means for agents, reasoning models specifically, and the fast rise in test time compute scaling laws.
Yeah. So like one interesting thing is like our base language model is Claude, which is a very good model. We also use DeepSeek because it's an open source model, and we're an open source company and we want to support open source, and it's also quite good. Also, we want Qwen to work, so we trained a Qwen model using kind of agent trajectories, and it works actually reasonably well. We've also tried O1, and we actually had less success with O1. The accuracy is in the 30 to 40% range, whereas Claude in our kind of like 2-month-old harness is in the 54% range. And I think the reason why is because if you look at all of OpenAI's like announcements about O1, none of them talk about agents. They're all talking about reasoning. And I feel like you have the reasoning here, and then like kind of orthogonal to that, you have the like good training as an agent, and O1 has only done one of those things. And so I figure that, OpenAI is also working on agents, and probably the next model they release is going to be trained both as an agent and with reasoning. And I think if we get to that point, then, O1 will probably be a lot better. O1 or, whatever that model is called will probably be a lot better at that. But it's also extremely expensive. And like it's getting to, if you use it as an agent, it will get to the point where like using that is maybe more expensive than hiring a junior human programmer to solve your problems for you. So like, I think they're going to need to, the reasoning models are going to need to do something about that expense in order to make it useful in that way, unless reasoning can reduce the number of steps that the agent needs to do by a lot, or make sure it stays on track way better, or things like that. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how it develops. I don't know exactly how it's going to develop.
Graham, maybe one last question. I know being conscious of the time, and we have like tons of other things that we didn't quite yet cover, but one last question maybe for you. Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan's show and talked about this year, and also I think Sam Altman also mentioned this in his blog, agents, mid-tier agents will join the workforce this year and be able to code as well as like, I don't know, mid-tier engineer. And also now Zuckerberg also announced like cuts and not hiring. You're building agents now. You're building like a software engineer agent essentially. Do you see this end of this year? Do you see agents like a joining workforce? You now said that like, Open Hands built most of the contributions to Open Hands. Do you see that happening by end of this year? In that like magnitude, or is it like just platitudes or like big mentions by big companies, but they're not building them day to day like you?
Yeah, I think coding agents are going to be really important. And like if somebody is an engineer and like is at all worried about this, what I would encourage people to do is like as soon as possible download and like use an agent. If it's Open Hands, download Open Hands and play around with it and see what it can do. And it's very good at generating code if you give it very clear directions about what to do. But good software engineers are able to do things without getting really good directions about what to do. They're able to make good design decisions and things like this. And from what I can see, models are still not all that great at doing this. Maybe they'll be great at doing this by the end of 2025 or something like this, but at the moment they are not. And so for engineers who are working in this area, I would definitely suggest that they get familiar with agents, get good at using them. And different skills are necessary. One skill that becomes very necessary is confirming whether the code that the agent wrote is actually good code. And that's not something you practice quite as much as writing code, but I think that skill is going to become much, much more important over the course of 2025. And, if you can get ahead of the curve on that, I think you'd have a really big competitive advantage. And like, I like programming, but I don't myself because the agent does it for me, and then I go in and check its code. So, that might be looking at what the future of programming looks like.
Yep. The thing that doesn't scare me the most, but the thing that worries me about this thing is that many folks think that they don't even need to study CS anymore. They don't need to study coding anymore because like the agents will do anything. The thing you're mentioning is like, no, this is quite the opposite. You need to go learn code because like, yes, the agents will write code for you, but you'll need to be there to like confirm that whatever happened. Yeah, you'll turn from a developer to like manager of multiple developers. They'll do multiple things for you. You're still gonna have to like make sure that some of the stuff they do is correct. Engineering manager that's worth their salt needs to know what the engineers they do engineer eventually at the end, until such a time that they generate code that you have no idea what it's about. So that's very, very exciting. Folks, check out the documentation, and definitely I recommend to try Open Hands at docs.allhands.dev. Graham, thank you so much for coming up. Folks need to check it out and run some agents and see what it's all about. We expect great things from this. Thank you so much for coming. I was very excited to hear that this is now a company. I was very surprised, sorry that I wasn't following, to see that like the excitement about Open Hands, and then I was like, oh, that was renamed OpenDevin. We talked about OpenDevin. I remember. I got it as a surprise, and I was like very, very, very happy. And so I'm very, very happy to see that this is the outcome of that effort, and then to see you guys come again. Folks definitely should check out the course as well, where you come in and show examples of this as well. And I hope you guys a lot of success with the company, and then feel free to come back and tell us all about the upcoming releases as well, while we continue and talk about some exciting news going forward. Thank you, Graham, for coming up.
Yep.
Thank you. Feel free to stick around with us, or feel free to drop as well. Meanwhile, we are moving forward because we have big companies that news that we haven't yet covered, which is GPT tasks. We have not that much time, but GPT tasks, Mistral, Codestral, and Sakana AI. I will say, out of the three, I think Sakana AI, we don't have that much time, but let's briefly cover GPT tasks. I think finally OpenAI released an update to how agentic ChatGPT is. I think that's the way we describe this. Wolfram, you want to take this one? Did you try task already, Wolfram?
I didn't try it yet. I saw it that it's available, but I usually use just the 01 model, not the 4.0 anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's like setting a reminder, and then the thing is, it will send you an email that puts you back a link on the ChatGPT interface, so it gets you the response you asked for. Like remind me that I have to buy some groceries after work, and hopefully it sends a reminder early enough.
So very interestingly, it's a ChatGPT reminder. So basically, you can tell it, do a thing for me, and then send me a reminder. But the thing, it could be this could be a ChatGPT task. So you can ask it, go browse the web for me and like give me a thing, or this could be a like generate a story for me and then send me at 9 a.m. or anything that web related, right? You can say, get me the weather in Berlin. I don't know when I arrived there at like this time. So these are tasks with intelligence. Now it seems silly. You guys know that I'm the hype man for OpenAI. The 12 days of OpenAI, I was here hyping every time. This, let me just zoom in on my face. Folks who are listening to me, this seems silly. Right now, there's not a lot of utility in how this is right now. I see testing catalog in our audience. I see like a bunch of folks. Right now, I don't see a lot of use for this right now. But honestly, this doesn't seem like this is it. This seems like the first release to test the waters, and the first task that I got, the email that I got is like, whoops, this didn't work. And then they posted a tweet that says, whoops, we apologize, it didn't work for you guys. And then they tried again, they said, yeah, it works now. However, this feels like the start of something else. This feels agentic to a sense, because the whole thing is you schedule a task and then the agent goes, does something for you and comes back and tells you about it. So the email part of this is the email is just a notification so that you won't miss it in the app. So many people don't have the app, right? Many people don't still have the app, so you don't have a notification. The email just like announces, hey, your task was complete, go to ChatGPT and see it. The task could be generate something. I asked for a task for like, I don't know, 9:30 in the morning today to like generate a title for the show, because in my time Thursday is 9:30 in the morning. I did not get a task. I also asked it for show me all my tasks. I also didn't get all my tasks. So like we're still not AGI. You don't currently have all tasks.
It's a great building block. Great building block if you have some integrations where you could say, okay,
yes.
check my mails, check it for new mails at that moment, or check the new
100%.
podcast and give me information what was discussed, stuff like
This
that.
is how it feels. This is a building block for something agentic, and it feels like they're just like laying the foundation for something much, much bigger.
But the question is, couldn't we just use a code interpreter and say, okay, make a cron job for a specific time to run an LLM and send it this prompt? I mean, that would be basically the same thing, wouldn't it?
It's a sign for something bigger. Right?
Wolfram, but like, question is, the 300 million users that they have, how many of them can set a cron job with just natural language? That's I think the question. And can we do this with voice? I think we can also do this with voice. We can like say, remind me, like this is where it's coming to. Like you can say, remind me tomorrow about like whatever, before my flight, whatever. So yeah, integrations I think is going to be the important piece here.
I was setting this up with Siri shortcuts when Code Interpreter was still Code Interpreter, to jump between apps and push stuff in it. That was very hard to set up. Like I could barely kind of get it working. So I think this is about to become a much bigger deal than it seems. It's kind of like when OpenAI announced functions and people were like, what is this? Is this even going to be any good and stuff? But I feel like this has, like in 6 months or maybe even sooner, might be like a pretty big deal, again, for the tasks that you guys mentioned.
It's a bit catching up because Gemini has the stuff where you can say, remind me, and that's a reminder for you, just using the normal Google Calendar stuff like that. So
it's a task scheduler. You know, it's like the kernel scheduler in the Linux kernel. Now they have the main component, and now they have a task scheduler. That's a huge missing piece that you need to build out everything else, right?
If the Karpathy, you remember Karpathy, like LLM OS metaphor that he talks about? Like the scheduler part is what they just added, right? Like essentially.
Yeah, like kind of. Like this is just the birth of that,
Yeah. So bigger piece, but right now not super useful, but coming to be very useful. That's what we're thinking.
It's a bit weird that you have to select it as a model of its own. So yeah it should be
Remember
like
that folks maybe don't remember anymore. Remember that like image generation was separate, voice was separate. Like there was like all of these things were separate before they unified them. The code interpreter was separate before. Remember, like all of these models were separate, and then they unified them. We're celebrating all of this as well. So it looks like they just like they trained a thing, and they're gonna unify this eventually. Let's mention briefly Mistral and new Codestral. New Codestral from Mistral, a new coding model that they claim is state-of-the-art coding model, claiming that takes #1 at the LM Arena,
the fill in the middle
Copilot Arena. Yeah,
it's third, but that benchmark is very good because that's mostly what you do inside an integrated development environment.
No, it's third here, but like it says #1, so like they tied for #1 with Claude 3.1 Sonnet and DeepSeek. I also thought it's third, but they're like the rank is #1.
Yeah. Also,
but like
Eric,
the score is like very close.
The original Codestral, a lot of people didn't realize that it was very good for that task.
Yeah.
And because we just looked at the overall benchmarks and we're not that good, but for the tasks which you're going to be using inside, like people that use Cursor, because I don't, but it for that task is actually very good. I'm just a bit disappointed that they didn't just release this model so we could like integrate it into our apps and build with it and stuff. Now you have to apply for an API, which is kind of doesn't feel like it's the same company anymore to
Tell
me.
us, Nistan,
Sorry.
tell us. This is what I wanted to hear. Yeah, this is exactly. But let me announce the CodeStrel before. So Mistral released a new version of CodeStrel that 12 points over the previous CodeStrel that still was very, very good on this Copilot Arena benchmark. Copilot Arena benchmark on LM Arena is measuring Copilot. So like anything, any code model that helps you within Cursor or different copilots, right? The previous CodeStrel was very good still. This one is tied for number one. Those are fill in the middle or like actual coding agents that help you like code. They don't compare themselves to Qwen, that people are not very happy with this, and then they don't release any weights. And this is available via their API. They have to apply, that you have to fill out a form that Nistan didn't like, or via a coding agent, continue.dev. So not directly available via Cursor, available via continue.dev. The community did not love it. The voice of the community, please tell us.
It's just my opinion on this thing, and I don't really filter them. They just come out as they are. It's just, in my opinion, if they had released this as an open model, it would benefit them a lot more because we would actually be integrating it, and instead of like spending during the time that I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to wait a day and stuff for all this. I was able to just do a Yarn extension on like a Qwen fine-tune and Frankenstein that I had already made, and I could already extend that by a 6 multiplier to over just like about 200,000 tokens, and that worked fine. I would much rather use the 250,000 tokens from CodeStrel because it would probably be smaller and more handy. But yeah, I couldn't integrate that into our daily use, and so that's unfortunate. People, yeah. So the polyglot benchmarks, just to go really quickly on it, because there were some questions on this benchmark. It's a newer Aider bench. Personally, I like the older Aider bench.
For folks who are listening, listen, what are you talking about? Aider.chat is also like a framework for
it's
agents.
Another agent. So there are only really 2 good benchmarks now for code. Now, Weights and Bias is going to be releasing their own, so I'd be excited because I've made a model specifically for this job, so I do want to try it out, how it does compared to others on the Weights and Biases benchmark. But right now, we have Aider and we have SWE bench, and as Graham mentioned, they have their drawbacks. And Aider bench just again measures it like kind of agentic like code sort of thing. So these are multi-step hard benchmarks, so they're very hard to fool or to cheat on. You can't really cheat on them. The model needs to be actually good. Even if you cheat, you're not going to be able to get much out of it. And I like the older Aider bench, but I think this one is easier to run, and you can still compare it with the older Aider bench. I just suspect that even Qwen could do a lot better in that if it just had function calling. So it could go a lot higher than DeepSeek v3. And honestly, same for CodeStrel. If you had the weights, we could either train it for function calling, and be able to bump up that benchmark for the CodeStrel model. So right now, I don't know, people like myself view these as much more accurate benchmarks as to how good the model actually is and how much you can trust it with the work.
So CodeStrel was released, and then Paul from Aider released the benchmark results from the new polyglot benchmark from Aider, and CodeStrel, the new one, significantly underperformed compared to DeepSeek and compared to Qwen 2.5, significantly compared to the results that they are tied essentially on the LM Arena. So the difference between the 2 benchmarks is stark, and this is what the community is kind of like, what the hell? And we cannot independently verify this because we don't have weights. We only have the API for this model, and then we only can access this model via this continue.dev agent. However, I was able to run CodeStrel via OpenRouter in Cursor. It's possible. I wanted to tell folks, if you want to try this out, all you need, I actually have this open. All you need is in Cursor. You have to set this up into OpenRouter. You have to override the OpenAI base URL to Open Router and add your Open Router key, and then you can add Mistral AI Code Scroll 2501 in your things, and then you can actually use this. So you can use this here, Mistral Code Scroll 2501. It actually works, and it's fast as well. So it's possible. Testing it out is possible. I tested it out. It's fast. It looks good. Let's move on, folks. We're at 2 hours, but I don't want to skip before we talk with Hailio text to audio because it's emotional. But before, we also mentioned Kokoro.js and out TTS. So all of these things together. So before we do this, I really want to open a window where I can share with you guys what I'm talking about. So let me do this.
Dude, Kokoro is the most revolutionary product of this year.
Tell us.
And we said it last week. I mean, what you have a 0.01B. So that means in 8-bit, that's only going to be like 80 megs, 82 megabytes. You can run that on a single CPU core and have very, very good text to speech. The only thing it's missing is it doesn't have like emotion allowed, and it can't really clone voices, but the voice quality just stock on default is so good that I was right. I had entire code reviews that were like 40,000 tokens long, and I just had Kokoro make audio of them, and like I could fall asleep to listening to the code reviews.
So we talked about Kokoro last week, and we got very, very excited. However, a friend of ours who builds stuff for the web, Zenova, just built Kokoro.js, which you can now install and run in the browser. It only downloads like 300 megabytes in the browser. Who's counting? But hey, you can say something like, hey, you can... Hey,
and keep in mind,
ThursdAI, welcome, and this is the web version of Kokoro. And this is Sky from OpenAI, who they took away from us. Yeah, listen, go ahead.
Keep in mind, that's running it in Float 32. So that will work anywhere. That will work on any CPU. You don't even need to have a GPU on the browser that you're running it on.
So Zenova just listens in and says, it only downloads 90 megabytes. Okay, let's go. Let's test it out.
Oh, he's gotten it down to, see how fast the community moves? So I'm guessing Zenova already did the ONNX chain. Yes, there we go.
So let's listen. Let's tune in and listen how this sounds.
Yeah.
Hey, listeners of ThursdAI, welcome. And this is the web version of Kokoro. And this is Sky from OpenAI, who they took away from us.
They took away Sky, and now it runs in my browser. Nobody can know. I can ask it to say anything I want, and it runs in my browser. And it's only 90 megabytes. It's nothing. Nothing. It's so quick. It's crazy.
So we're going to have Sky everywhere, like literally on any site. It's smaller than the build size of a lot of websites.
Haha, Scarlett Johansson Suux.
Well, okay. But you get the point. It's
incredible.
Like
Scarlett Johansson sues us.
Yes. Hopefully Scarlett Johansson doesn't sue, because I didn't come up with this model. We're just playing around. So, folks, this is number one. Kokoro.js is now possible. Zenova, shout out, huge shout out for this. It's only 90 megabytes, and now it's impossible to stop. Basically, once it's like in there, it's impossible to stop. You can just run this in anything. You can build your own agent that talks to you in JavaScript and like runs things for you. That's incredible. That's number one in the TTS realm. Number two in TTS realm is out TTS. Out TTS is a other TTS news that let me see if I can find. It's a 500 million and 1 billion TTS model. Let me see if I can find from outai.com.
Is based on Olmo. So shout out to our friend Nathan there.
Yeah. So Olmo from LLM. This model is based on them. I want to find the playground that I've played with.
By the way, they did a big job by actually sending code to Llama CDP, and now it is integrated in Llama CDP as well. So this makes it easier for running it on your phone and stuff. Sorry, I have construction noise. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, demo. Okay, there we go. The cool thing about this specific thing is that let me see if you guys can. Okay, this one generates text like, "Hey there, folks." Let's see if we can generate speech. It's gonna take a second because probably many people are running this. But the cool thing about OutTTS is that the speech it generates is way, way, way less cool than Kokoro. It's significantly less good. But the voice cloning is built in. So Kokoro doesn't do voice cloning, right? Kokoro is that good, but for maybe that reason, the voice cloning is not there. This model generates voice, like it has one-shot voice cloning within like 8 seconds. So there's that. Though.
Hey there, folks.
It generates some voice like super quick. But if you upload a piece of, let's say, something, it will voice clone that voice. Let me actually record my voice super quick here. Allow. So let me record. No microphone found. Hey, this is Alex Volkov from ThursdAI talking to you, recording my voice. This is 5 seconds of Alex speaking for cloning purposes. Hey, this is Alex Volkov from ThursdAI. Okay, so I just recorded this live, and then I'm gonna say, ha ha ha, my I don't know, my cat is happy today. Something
running.
stupid.
It's about to launch its own agents
today, and is about to launch its own agents framework. Thank you, Nistan. Framework. Definitely not in the distribution. Will generate speech. So right now, I've recorded my voice. It's going to clone this. It's only 9 seconds on my voice. It's going to clone this, and then it will also generate whatever I said here. And it's going to take maybe 20 seconds. Maybe
for
a
the
little bit
multilingual,
longer.
that is a big advantage for this.
Yes.
Compared to Kokoro.
So
more.
Kokoro is only English, right? This one is English, Japanese, Korean,
German too.
German as well, and French.
Kokoro had French as well. Actually, the French Kokoro voice is hilarious when reading technical stuff in English. Oh, really? Because you guys just have to try it out.
All right, we're gonna wait for this one. I think I have one more to show. I don't know if we want to wait for this one or no, but one more to show, and that's the Haulio voice that's emotional that I really want to show as well. So this is the last one here. Okay, we're gonna wait maybe one more second, because if I open it up in another tab, you guys won't be able to hear, but I think we should be able to give this 1 more minute as well. Meanwhile, I'll open this in a new tab. And then I have a link. Okay, so the last thing that I want to show is that the Haulio Minimax folks, not only did they release the textual model, they also released a new version of an audio, and that version of audio generation.
I got some maybe
we have breaking news.
Breaking news. Well, I can't really share a show, but someone just sent me a screenshot that they got access to the O3 Mini, which is pretty interesting.
I hear that people are getting early access, but I didn't. If you can share it,
we're excited to offer early access to O3 Mini during this early testing period. I should probably not read anymore in case their email is, there's some kind of
mark somehow. Yeah. Okay, so for Haulio, the example that I wanted to show, let me see if I can present this so you guys can also hear, because yes, okay, cool. So meanwhile, while our voice generates, here's the UI for the voice, and this voice is significantly more emotional as well. There's a bunch of voices that they have. You can also clone here. I don't want to clone my voice within this interface of this company, but it's also very clearly 11 Labs API. Also API is available. One thing that I found is this one. I can play this to you guys and you can see which voice this sounds like. Where's this voice? This one.
As your queen, I command absolute loyalty and dedication from all my subjects. Let no one dare question my authority.
What do you guys think? Is that a little bit
That was pretty nice. By the way, Alex, I sent you a little 10-15 second of the French voice of Kokoro reading stuff from Ubuntu. It's on Signal, so it's just like a little wave clip in case you want to play that if you have Signal open on the desktop, because I thought it was hilarious. It was also good as well.
Don't know how to technically add this to the show right now, Nistan. Don't make me. We started with tech issues. But 1 second, just before this, Wolfram, did you did you try to like figure out who this voice is?
Some politician?
No, this is Emilia Clarke's voice from Game of Thrones, from Khaleesi.
Okay. Now that fits to the title as well. Oh,
Yes.
As your queen, I command absolute loyalty and dedication from all my subjects.
yes.
Let
Okay,
no
now,
one dare question my.
That's
now it
what I
makes
wanted to
sense.
bring here.
But
It's
you know
like-
what? I watched the German synchronization, the German
I see, I
dubbing,
see.
but I have seen her on YouTube talk about it. So yeah, okay.
So I heard this and I was like, okay, this is a Chinese company. They care less about copyrights, but the emotional thing in this voice is crazy. So I had so I want to read out like a thing super quick. Westeros. Oh yeah, like I had this thing super quick. I had the speech prepared for you guys. I want to generate this, and there's a voice modifier with emotion, so she can say this happy. I need to sign up.
You had the
super
wrong voice
quick.
selected, or didn't you write trustworthy man?
Yeah, I'll choose the voice super quick. Let me.
I can quickly just play the French
Yeah,
voice.
play
I just
it,
shared
Nistan. The French
my
while
DLC.
I'm pulling this up to confuse people even more. Which TTS we're using?
Yeah, if you just pull up my.
Remember, life will test you.
Wait. Yeah, I want to pull up your.
That was pretty good.
This one.
Oh yeah, there we go.
So Nissan playing Kokoro, the French Kokoro. No, Nissan, it's not. We can't hear it.
Oh, you can't hear it? Damn
No,
it.
this is. I told you, this is like a whole technical setup.
Right,
But send
screw
me
it.
the link. I'll add this to the show
Right,
later.
cool.
It's only this. Okay, so I think that this is better than 11 Labs to some extent. So let me show you again the Queen thing. They are.
It is very good.
It's so here's the Daenerys Stormborn speech in an angry emotion. So you can choose emotions as well. There's like a sad, angry, fearful, disgusted. Let's do angry. It's not super fast, but it should be generally fast.
I am Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, the Unburnt, mother of dragons, Khaleesi to Drogo's riders, and queen of the 7 kingdoms of Westeros. You have seen the wonders I have made, the victories I have won, the justice I have delivered. You have seen me free slaves and feed the hungry, heal the sick and protect the weak. But there is one enemy who remains, one enemy who will not yield.
Right?
Oh, great!
That's
Especially
great.
but,
So let's try this with a happy one. I want to hear this with happy. Because like the emotion tone, I think.
I am Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, the Unburnt, mother of dragons,
Yeah,
Khaleesi to Drogo's riders, and queen of the 7 kingdoms of Westeros. You have seen the wonders I have made, the victories I have won, the justice I have delivered. You have seen me free slaves and feed the hungry, heal the sick and protect the weak. But there is one enemy who remains, one enemy who will not yield.
Yeah, that was significantly different.
real competition for 11 Labs, huh?
Thank you, folks, for joining Thursday AI. Okay, so folks, we're gonna end on this, on angry. We're gonna end on this.
This was it for this week. Thank you, folks, for joining Thursday AI.
All right, this was it for this week, folks. Thank you for joining ThursdAI. Thank you, Wolfram. Thank you, Nistan. Thank you, everyone, for joining us from week to week. We're going to be here next week to talk about everything that happened in AI. I will remind you that this show is sponsored by Weights and Biases. If you're joining in the Twitter space, please follow Weights and Biases Weave, which is our little square thing that's co-hosting as well, and give Weave a try as well. I really appreciated everyone who I saw this week, because when I travel, I get to see the people from our community. Next week, Wolfram will get to see the people from our community in German. So if you're in Germany or near Cologne, feel free to join. We're going to add a link to that event in show notes as well. In 2 weeks, there's going to be the Toronto meetup. You can maybe meet Nistan if you get in as well. And then next week also the New York meetup. So we're going to be a lot of places at once, all over the world. That's great. The community grows. It's been a big week for open source. We've talked about just like an insane amount of open source releases. I feel like next week is going to be like a big week for big companies as well. It's been always my pleasure to host this. We'll see you guys next week. Meanwhile, I'm going to play us out. Bye-bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.